another suddenlycomics.com video, and today I'm going to go through my comics of the year 2022. This is a purely personal selection. It is based on comics that I've read during the course of 2022, and it's the ones I've enjoyed the most. There are hundreds of comics that I haven't read and therefore I can't comment on. So I can only comment on the comics that I've read, and the ones that are shown here are my favourites, and I would recommend them to people. I will give a bit of a description of each comic as I go through. Okay, so let's kick off. First of all, this was really early in the year. I think I read this in January, and it was unusual because it was a Marvel comic, and it was a one-off called Timeless, and I really enjoyed it. It introduced us to Kang the Conqueror. Basically, the story was there's some famous historian who is cataloguing all the great villains, and he doesn't have Kang very high up on his list, so Kang appears and whisks him off and takes him on a tour of time and space to show him that he is in fact the most formidable of all villains across time and space. I really enjoyed it. It moved along fast. It had a middle, a beginning, and an end, and it had some lovely teasers at the end. We saw a teaser suggesting that we were going to get Marvel Man some stage later in the year, and of course indeed we did. So here we go. I'm starting off with a Marvel comic which I really enjoyed, called Timeless. There's a number of different variant covers to this, the most expensive of which has that clock from the Loki series on it, which is called Miss Time, I don't know, Miss Minutes. So there we go. That's my first comic of the year. These are in no particular order, by the way. I'm not ranking these between each of them. These are all comics I enjoyed during the year. Okay, next up, and one particular person gets two listings on this list, and it is Zoe Thorogood. So she first gets listed. This is for Reign #1. Reign was written by Joe Hill, but cover illustrations and internal artwork by Zoe Thorogood. Issue 1 of Reign is my comic book of the year. It was a series, but I think issue number 1 held together as a story in itself. It was beautifully drawn and was a sort of typically tragic love story being told. So the premise of this comic book is that rain suddenly starts falling as pincer sharp needles, and if you're caught out in the rain, these basically kill you. So yeah, it's an interesting story. The series as a whole was good. I don't think the rest of the series held up to issue 1, but Zoe Thorogood's art throughout was truly great. She's different as an artist, instantly recognizable, so although I'm not ranking these, I am now, because this was my single favourite issue of the year. Right, Zoe Thorogood not only is an artist, but she also writes, and towards the end of the year she wrote a book called this is a sort of trade paperback, and it's an autobiographical story. It's called It's Lonely at the Centre of the Earth. I picked this up from Zoe at Thought Bubble in November. Um, and it is a really thought-provoking and pretty harrowing story about, as it says here, records 6 months of her own life fall apart in a desperate attempt to put it back together again in the only way she knows how. Is an intimate and meta-narrative look at the life of a selfish artist who must create for her own survival. But don't take my word for how good this is. There's 110 reviews on Goodreads, and you can see here the majority of them are 5-star. This here is a quote from the book. Maybe I'd be dead if not for this, but instead I'm going to make something that didn't exist before, and I think that's beautiful. Yeah, so you can see here some really gushing reviews. Easily one of the best reads of the year by a cartoonist who is exciting as there currently is. Totally agree. This is really excellent stuff. And I don't generally read trade paperbacks. I'm a comic collector, but when I saw Zoe was doing this, I had to get a copy. And if you've got any interest in mental illness and how different people can cope with it, then I thoroughly recommend Zoe Thorogood's It's Lonely at the Centre of the Earth. Right, next up, this is Step by Bloody Step by Joe Spurrier, and this artist here, Bagara. Right, one of the things that I like in comics is when art and the story work together. Now, this is a comic book without any words in it. And I saw Joe Spurrier at Thought Bubble, and I said to him how easy it's to write a story without words, and he said, actually, I found it pretty easy, and he enjoyed working with the artist. The art in this is amazing. Definitely, you need to seek this out. It's a super story. There is this small child who appears to have memory loss, who is being cared for by a huge robot, and they're wandering through some strange and wondrous lands. I think it was a 4-part mini-series. The art is amazing. This is the cover, one of the covers to issue 1. Here we can see the large giant going through a snowstorm, and protecting the child here from the snow. There's some amazing sort of fantastic landscapes in this comic book. As I said, no words. It's purely an art-driven story. There's some fantastic and horrific creatures they meet on the way. I thoroughly recommend Step by Bloody Step, a comic without words, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have a great story, and the art is incredible. I got Joe to sign all my copies of this. In fact, I bought more copies from him, and I hope to get the artist to sign them at some stage in the future. Okay, now every year somebody comes up with a brilliant idea for a comic series. Last year it was Stray Dogs. The concept being we're going to take a sort of Disney-like dog story but make it a horror story. Terrific idea. This year's great idea was this one, as far as I'm concerned. It's called 8 Billion Genies. And the concept here is that when the world's population hits 8 billion, everybody on Earth gets a genie, and that genie will grant them one wish. Okay? And everybody gets all the genies at the same time. Um, this is a really thought-provoking concept, and some of the thoughts about this we see during the various issues. You know, people are idiots, and some of the things they wish for are idiotic. What is interesting as well, I mean, you know, this makes you think after you've read the comic. You know, if this happened to you and you had one wish, would you use it instantly? Would you wait until everybody else had used all theirs? What would you do? It's a really interesting concept, and you know, complete havoc ensues. Um, and you know, all sorts of questions like, what if one person wishes for something diametrically opposed to what another person wishes for? Effectively, their wishes get cancelled out on in this. So it's a fascinating series. Um, it went very pricey because this hit the racks, and the concept appealed to people, and it sold out. It gone into multiple printings. I was lucky enough that I'd pre-ordered this, so I paid cover price for mine. But strongly recommend 8 Billion Genies. It's a really good conversation starter if you're having a dinner party. And I assume the trade paperback must be due out shortly. So rather than go buy the comics, it may well be worth waiting for the trade paperback to come out. Okay, next up, comics of the year is this one. I really enjoyed this. I haven't finished reading them all yet. I'm about halfway through, but I've enjoyed them so far. And again, there is an interesting concept, and I really like the art by Jay Lee here. So the concept here is that there is going to be another Christ, and 7 children have been born, and the one that survives the longest will become the new Christ. It's a very interesting story. I've enjoyed it. It is quite thought-provoking, and I do like the art. So, you know, there's a number of things coming together for me in this comic. I still have some issues to read, but it's definitely on my list of comics of the year for 2022. Right, finally, this was just great fun. Okay, I like Scott. This was by Scott Snyder, artwork by Greg Capullo, and I think they just had huge fun doing this. This was a 3-issue mini-series, lots of swearing. It's effectively the classic good versus evil, with some twists involved. 3 issues. It's just great fun. This was a writer and an artist working on an independent magazine with, I suspect, very little constraint. You know, once you've got to the stage where Scott Snyder's at, working with an independent publisher, my guess is he can pretty much do whatever he wants to do, and I think that's what he did here. I think he just had great fun. It comes through in the comic. I really enjoyed it. It made me laugh, which is quite rare. So yes, We Have Demons, written by Scott Snyder, here on my list. Right. There's a comic missing from this list, right, which I'm going to have to talk about without a visual. I'm going to get a visual. I don't know what's happened to it. I did have it set up, but it seems to have disappeared. Now, this is a bit of a cheat because this comic actually started. This comic actually started in 2021, but it is continued through 2022. And I just love it. This is Nice House on the Lake. Yeah, look, it actually started in June It started in June. There we go, issue 1. It started in June 2021. But it is going to finish issue. It had a hiatus of about 4 or 5 months, I think. Um, and issue 12 comes out next week, I believe. So that will be the conclusion to the Nice House on the Lake story. We are 11 issues in, and I am still completely mystified as to what is going on. This has held my attention throughout. It is gorgeously done, really well written by probably my favourite writer of the moment at the moment, James Tynion, who I've met a couple of times. He is a really nice guy, very approachable, really interesting to talk to. He's written loads of stuff. He wrote a small little series this year called The Closet, which I also enjoyed. But for me, this for me is the best thing he's done. He does Something Is Killing the Children, which is obviously ongoing. Nice House on the Lake, he's going to conclude this month. Yeah, so thoroughly enjoyed and recommend Nice House on the Lake. Again, if you haven't read it, I would wait for the trade paperback and get the whole thing in one. And you're gonna need to flip back and forwards. I mean, I have to do this all the time with this book and think, what the heck is going on? What happened last time? I have to get the previous issue out, work out who all the characters are. It's great. Okay. Right. Finally, I'm just going to talk about. So those are my comics of the year 2022, but I am going to talk about my cover artist of the year. And those of you who watch my channel will not have any problem in being able to tell you that my cover artist of the year is Carla Cohen. I absolutely adore Carla Cohen's artwork. For me, she can do no wrong. She is a classically trained French artist. She's now married to Lucio Perillo. They live in Italy, and she just produces some magnificent stuff. Even her signature is great looking. And here's just a little gallery of some of Carla's covers from some. I think most of them are from this year. I mean, look at this ice cream man here. Really great. And look at this Department of Truth issue 16. Fabulous. She's just great at sexy women. And there we go, Batman 108. I think, yeah, and this, I love this Catwoman 45. Got milk. Yeah, so my cover artist of the year, Carla Cohen. I mean, there are a lot of great cover artists out there. You know, Jenny Frisson, tremendous. Peach Momoko, also really good. But for me, my favourite is Carla Cohen, and a little opportunity there to show off some of Carla's work. Oh, look, there we got a double whammy. We've got Carla Cohen on Nice House on the Lake. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this review of 2022, my favourite comics of the year. As I say, I'm sure you've got your own list. You'll have read comics I haven't read, or you'll have read some of the same comics I have read but have a differing opinion. If you've got some really great comics or you've read this year and you think you'd like to let people know about them, put them in the comments below. I'd like to know about them as well. I'll probably check them out. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this video. That's your lot. See ya again soon.